Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.co's daily brief. I see we got a nice full room here, lots of people interested, and we are officially live on YouTube. That's good to see. So if you can't get into the daily brief, the hangout here, by all means, pop on over to the YouTube page. You can watch from there. In fact, you could probably link that into the lounge. You could probably just play it from the lounge. Anyway. Nice to see everybody. It's just a little bit past 9 a.m. 9 a.m. on the West Coast. We were sitting probably for the past hour or so, watching. At least I was. I hope some of our veterans were too. Watching the semi-annual Humphrey Hawkins testimony of Janet Yellen in front of the U.S. Congress. She dropped actually a couple of really interesting tidbits. People were asking her if the balance sheets of the banks could actually support these high prices for stocks, things like that. Are people playing the market on margin debt? That's really where you have to get really worried about stock markets, is if people are playing the market on margin. You could argue in 1929 that's sort of what brought the market down. But her frank answer was, nope, don't see that risk, which is, in my opinion, basically a green light for stocks to take off here. And I thought to that end, sort of aside here, what have I learned today? Kind of a little module. I always like to give you guys something to think about through the day. If anything, take the time, if you can, to pop on over to the library if you're a basic site member, and peruse through the course materials that I've posted on there, textbooks. Everybody knows who's taken the education program knows my rant about demographics. I think we all should understand that we're actually going to go through a demographic shift here shortly, and I get the funny feeling, like demographically wise and generationally, I get the funny feeling we're in this kind of market condition right now. Here was the 1929 boom, and you could argue, right, everybody was playing the market on margin, heavy debt load, etc. And, the crash. Generationally, we'll also know that that was a demographic shift, fear cycle, greed cycle, fear cycle. We've been in the fear cycle so long, I always say that first now. We all have to actually transition out of that. It might be a tough transition for a lot of us to make. But I'm getting the feeling we're in sort of this kind of expansionary phase. And just for fun this morning, I took a look at, this is sort of the expansion coming out of that generation's fear cycle. And what did the expansion in the economy kind of look like? And then I looked at our current cycle. And for everybody's reference, this is back in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. And really, guys, the cool thing is this is what we're actually looking at in front of us. I hope you guys all realize that. The banks are loaded up. Their balance sheets are nice and solid. Corporate America has got just a ton of money. It's just sitting on the sidelines, just waiting to be spent. Everybody's just waiting for all these darn baby boomers to get out of the economy and for the economy to shift into the next generation. But what do these expansions look like? And the irony of it all, and there was a gentleman in the lounge this morning, we were chatting about it. Does anybody know what this process is called? You ever heard this expression as we're sort of muddling along and we're climbing up here? They call this climbing the wall of worry. And the irony of it all is, as we sort of work our way higher, you constantly hear people going, oh no, it's going to break, it's going to break, it's going to break. No, it'll break because of this reason. No, it's going to break because of that reason. No, it's going to break. Because they're all thinking sort of back in these kind of days. And the irony of it all is you actually know that the market is going to break, when actually at this point everybody's like, oh fuck, you're right. Excuse my French. Whoops, caught myself there. Ah, you're right. Everything's going to the moon, right? Did we just kind of go through a market state like that, guys? Anyone? Is there any asset where people were just going, everything's going to go straight up forever? Did we just kind of maybe go through it? Something like that? Right. So anyway, here's stock market wise. No, Mike, I'm talking specifically about what we just went through in Bitcoin and crypto. I suppose Canadian real estate. Oh my goodness. And did you know that the Bank of Canada just raised rates today? Oh my goodness. This is like, it's a potion. This is like, you can hear it tick, 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 tick. I can literally hear the time bomb just ticking away here in Vancouver. And it's weird. You go out on the streets in Vancouver. I noticed the other day, things are really quieting down around here. I don't know whether there's a mass exodus, but wow, holy moly. Anyway, so the point I'd make here, and somebody's asking, Carlos says, does globalization play a role at that, Brian? Well, the irony of it all, Carlos, is, if we actually look at the size of relative economies, and actually I used to have a website that did that. Jeremy, you probably have it handy. But if you actually look at the size of the economies, relatively speaking, the United States' economy still just dominates the crap out of the world economy. So because the United States is the economic engine, as a result, what's going on there obviously carries heavy influence elsewhere. I do agree, though, to a certain degree that, and I even think that the United States themselves, if you sort of, listen to the tone of a lot of Americans, just listening to Yellen this morning, she even said, this is not sustainable. This whole sort of, we're just living beyond our means. Budgets really aren't keeping pace. Governments are spending way more money than they're bringing in. It's not sustainable. So how do you, fix the problem? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a serious, rebalancing of sort of the fate of the world. And, we're kind of seeing that. Hey, there you go. That's an interesting image. Thank you, Jeremy. We're seeing that sort of to a certain degree with the euro. And I've been just chatting with people, and I think we talked about it recently, that the euro to a certain degree, I think, is actually going to become a more viable sort of reserve currency going forward. But anyway, back to our story here. I don't want to be here all day. I've taken up way too much of your time as it is. I just think that, and we just sort of saw this on Bitcoin, same sort of thing, crypto. Geez, a lot of these little cryptos have come off more than 50% now, so that's good. They're cleaning up the flim flam, as I heard somebody in Congress say today, which I thought was cute. But it was interesting when somebody asked Yellen, did they think that the market was overvalued? And she said, well, I'm not going to comment on valuations, but what I am going to comment on is are these asset prices sustainable? And given the fact that all the banks' balance sheets are nice and healthy, that she thought the expansion could continue in that regard. I think that's kind of saying we're kind of like somewhere along here. And if I look at the sort of current market state, that's sort of like this. So, and I posted this image in the lounge. I thought it was kind of handy. Go grab it if you're interested. Sort of the similarities of the cycles. Can you sort of see the similarities of the cycles? Now, they're not going to be completely different, the same, because back then we actually had a stable currency. Now, and this is what a lot of the Republicans in Congress are going on about here today, is that we have a society where central bankers can just devalue the currency, print a crap load of money, and just throw bags of money at the problem to solve the solution. But of course, that doesn't solve it, because we know capital isn't created or destroyed. It just gets sloshes around the system. And all you're literally doing to keep this thing moving higher, and of course, all our students know this out the yin-yang, is you're just devaluing the base currency to keep the game going. But nonetheless, Do you kind of see the similarities here? And I added this one because, why did I add this one? Oh, I wanted to show the 87 crash. But I think, you know, on balance, right, if we just put these side by side, I see a lot of similarities here. Something along those lines. So big down, big up, big up. I think this is the difference of the quantitative easing and devaluing the US dollar. So because they devalued the US dollar, this should have broken more. But because the actual currency was worth less money, they could keep the market up. Then big expansion, boom, boom, right? Then consolidation. Can everybody sort of see the pattern here? Can somebody validate what I'm seeing here? Anyway, so consolidation, sets a base, launch higher, sets a base, launches higher. So the question really here is, you know, how should we be looking at price action? And what I'm fearful of, right, and we've talked a little bit about this recently, I don't think the millennials are in the stock market yet. They haven't bought the punch. They haven't drunk the Kool-Aid or whatever the hell the term you like to use is. And I think that's what has to happen to get the market up into sort of this phase. And then we have to ask ourselves, what do corrections on the other side look like? And this is where I sort of brought up the 1987 scenario in that, and I posted in the lounge, I said, you know, based on what we see here, and then demographically what we should expect through this now greed cycle, very normal 50% retracement after a face move up, or face rip move up. What should we actually look at this like? Was this, and remember, well, maybe remember, most of you guys probably weren't even born here, which depresses the hell out of me. But I lived through this. This was my life. And I remember even watching, I remember one specific news article I can see in my mind's eye where a broker jumped from the building, committed suicide. This was a quote unquote crash of 87. But what was this? Was this really a crash now, guys? Do you see the similarities here? Does that make sense what I'm saying? And if anything, that's sort of the big message of today's daily brief that I wanted to impart on you guys, is I feel like there is a move up underway here. And we were even talking in the lounge, somebody asked, well, Brian, how are we going to know? You know, what's that yield curve doing? Isn't that going to be our tell? And you're absolutely right. As long as the yield curve behaves itself, I think I have that link handy here. I wanted to talk about that. We've added, we've changed one of the pages here to make it a little more content for you. So before I finish this, remind me to remind you guys about that. Where do I want to be here? If you want to at any time, under non-crypto resource links, we have the US dynamic yield curve. So at any point, anytime you guys want it, you can bookmark the page, or if you just like, well, you know, show me the link, Brian, it's right here. At any given point in time, you can just quickly ask yourself, is the economy about to roll over here? And the very simple answer is, if you haven't seen this image before, this is the single most accurate predictor of recession. Historically, it works very, very well. And it has nothing to do with the stock market. That's the irony of it all. But in essence, this is the dot-com boom. And if you see it printed here inverted, then that means get ready. All hell's about to break loose. And what do you think? Was that a pretty good predictor of all hell breaking loose? Anyone? Yeah. And, you know, in your individual country, try and go find the yield curves of your individual country. It works very, very well. You know, this is the kind of stuff where your site membership should really pay dividends. You know, learn this stuff, guys, seriously. And then during the George Bush insane commodity bull, you know, building out the Chinese Olympics for their Olympic event, right? Curve went inverted. Doesn't necessarily mean that, well, I'll address that in a moment, Ed. It doesn't necessarily mean the market's going to break tomorrow, but the rule of thumb is within 6 months, usually the economy rolls over. So, and of course, here's George Bush Jr.'s nightmare, AIG, Lehman Brothers, all that kind of nonsense. So the point of the matter here is, here we are, and we're just patiently waiting for this curve to invert. It hasn't. It's still healthy. So as a result, I really can't look for a stock market crash and recession, but I definitely could. And this is sort of where Ed's comment about, what about Dow theory and stuff like that. I could definitely see back and forth, no problem at all. I don't know whether we're in a crash scenario in the stock market because I just don't think enough people are long the stock market yet. If anything, I think what has to happen is basically they have to suck the public into the market. Notice too that in essence, we're getting close. Don't get me wrong. We're getting close. I mean, we're in the neighborhood where, like the 1930s, where we just simply doubled this trading range to get up to sort of a manic peak. Well, we're sort of up in that area here. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it is definitely nosebleedy. And the interesting thing too, I will say, is on the other side of this cycle peak, right? This, this break, and let's hope it's just 50%. But this break will actually set the base for our next cycle. So that's sort of how I'm thinking about it. Obviously, we can't chase up here. That would just be nuts. And hopefully, if anything, just even going back to the 1930s, what do you think the odds are that this was the reload zone was like right in this area? The irony of it all is you can apply this to crypto, you can apply it to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you can apply it to broiler chickens. Does everybody see how this actually was a bot setup? And actually, this is cool because in a moment we'll head on over to crypto, and we'll see actually a bot setup that's trying to form. And do you see how they came down, they busted this low, but they couldn't take out that low there, right? Isn't that interesting? So we could draw bot levels here, and my hunch is that's probably like a bot target right in there, which I find amusing. Okay, so that was sort of your little history lesson for the day, and sort of what I'm thinking about with regard to price action here. And if anything, we'll know that the stock market, this is going to be, and actually this isn't a good example, but let's go to, year 2000, right? We'll know that the market, and actually in Bitcoin, it's the same thing, right? We'll know that it's a bear when it actually spends a lot of time distributing stock to the public and starts making letters of the alphabet that Brian loves, right? Big old M's. If it's just straight up, straight down, back to 50% level, the media will paint it as a crash, but actually I would argue that all that is just a technical cleanup. And that's sort of what I wanted to point out to you today, guys. Okay, let's head on over, kind of call it your history lesson for the day. As the Humphrey Hawkins testimony is going on, and it's today and tomorrow, we often see just a lot of back and forth with asset prices. I did see, and I was interested to see that the NASDAQ did indeed turn higher here. And we're rallying now up into reload short zone. So we'll see whether this expresses itself as a trading range and we start to show signs of failure up here. But if we look at the internals, gee whiz, I think we actually get a little Davo buy signal there on the NASDAQ coming out of that consolidation there. And if I look at the S&Ps, I saw earlier today somebody made reference that the Dow broke to new highs. And I look at the S&Ps, you can see the turn in MACD. If anything, Monday level oneers, we just did this. You can see the bigger W. In fact, if we see this chart, and we've talked about this repeatedly, but if we see something like this situation, are we supposed to do something if we're, let's say, bears? If we see price making lower lows? And all of you guys are going, yeah, Brian, yeah. I'm so cliche, but the bottom line here is the message stays exactly the same. And what I want you guys to do is become good traders and use these tools. So if I was a bear and I saw this scenario, is there anything I'm supposed to be doing here? If I'm a bear, what am I supposed to be doing? Cool down. Oh, temper. Very good, Kevin wrote temper enthusiast. Oh, he did it twice. Kevin's like totally take a nap. That's okay. All right. So Kevin, way to go. And all news site members, this is time-tested principles. In fact, this is exactly what the Bitcoin turn looked like a couple months ago. Right? Can everybody see the similarity? Look at that pattern. Boom, 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 boom. And this turn down here, and look at the MACD. I think actually we saw it really well in the RSI, but let's see. And remember we showed you this chart a while ago? So, I mean, it's almost carbon copy. You see the similarity here? Market's working its way down, lower lows. You look down at your momentum indicator and you go, holy crap! Do you see the similarity? Does anybody see the similarity? How about you guys over on YouTube? Do you see the similarity? waiting. Let's see if they say anything. I see Sen's over there. Hey, Sen. Nice to see you, bud. Anyway, I don't know if they're even listening. All right. So the point here is, yeah, I mean, there's, and how many reasons do I want you guys to have to consider taking a trade? Anybody remember? Hey, Jeremy, you got it. So, and how does the cadence go? I mean, this is such a good, I swear you could write a course off of this stuff, right? Maybe? Right? Reason number one, right? We want location. Someone should, yeah, you'd think so. Right? Reason number two, we want some sort of bullish signs that, hey, maybe this thing isn't as weak as it looks. And then number three, you want to, I've even put the little fractal signal. It was a tough trade to take. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it was an easy trade to take, but damn, what a signal. All right, so, and that sort of brings us to today. Do we have any W's here on BTC yet? No, there wasn't a W in price, Benjamin, but there are different tools that we can use to structure our trade. And sometimes the markets don't give us a nice, pretty little, gift wrap W. If anything, we're kind of fortunate when we get W's. As my old broker buddy Jack used to always say, and if you have kids in the rooms, please cover their ears. The market is a, you can fill in the blank. Well, no, actually, he wouldn't use that. He wouldn't be that colorful. All right, so maybe let's dovetail on to crypto here and get you on with your days. Like I said, I am seeing some interesting action here in the broader market, and for those people that are trading plans, right? I think there was actually a half decent little long signal there on the Nasdaq. How you actually framed your trade here, that's entirely up to you and your plan. It does look to me like maybe the euro's getting a little overextended here. A little bit of divergence is developing. So, you sharp traders, you might even argue there might even be a little Sebastian FU setup up there. I'm not quite sure. I was encouraged by what I'm seeing out of the gold market here coming out of last night, and the gold Bitcoin proxy, that GOLD, it looked nice and solid. It's got a pretty good looking bottom working. You can see the divergences coming in on gold here. Not really the best volume pattern though, but you can see Willie nice and stupid. Looks like he wants to point back up. We're going to have a huge battle here at this old high here and value low and the 13 EMA. You can see there's going to be a monster fight here. And we look at the bonds, same sort of thing. Interesting to see that the bonds actually just came back down to value low here. And in essence asked itself, do I really want to be outside value? And they just said, nope, I want to be in value. So and that often happens. You can actually use value low as a nice little trade location tool. If anything, on the Japanese yen, these are all our risk off proxies. So it's interesting to see that all the risk off proxies are catching a bid here through the Yellen testimony. And you know, is our tech stocks enjoying a nice little counter trend rally just to get right back up into a shorting location through that testimony? That could very possibly be. So keep an eye out there for any sort of short-term pivots there on tech stocks if you're interested in shorting those. Although internally, gee whiz, that looks strong. And remember our rule about the stock market in the end of June, beginning of July. We're heading into earnings season now, so you know, if you were shorting inclined on the Nasdaq, I got the funny feeling that was the trade there. Now we're going to head into the summer silly season, and of course, you know, gee whiz, I think they've set. You know, I look at Bitcoin, same sort of thing. I mean, I don't think we're there yet. And actually speaking, you know, frankly speaking, as corrections go, this hasn't been so bad. This could be, I mean, hell, this could be an Ethereum trade where it's just an absolute nightmare. But you could argue on Bitcoin, you know, and actually I'm encouraged based off of these lows on this MEX chart that we did come back to this 38.2 here, and the market is just churning. If this keeps churning, do you guys realize at some point the momentum indicators are going to start cleaning themselves up and they're going to start doing this kind of stuff again? Does that make sense, guys? I mean, price momentum can only go one direction for so long. The rubber band can only be stretched one direction for so long. So, I mean, I'm not sitting here, you know, pounding the table, I've got to buy this thing, right? I still have a little bit of our short left on from the inside bar fail. Stops at scratch on the rest of that trade. And I'll just ride it. And, you know, really there's not, it's a no-lose situation. We made money on the first half, and you know, if they want to rally the market back up and clean it up and get ready for the next leg higher, well, it's fine. I'll hop off on the other half, no big deal. Little bit suspect about this double bottom because remember we saw this on the RSI the other day on the higher time frames where this was a bit of a sucker's trap here, where this low was actually lower than this low, so it didn't actually create a double bottom. Then they brought up, then made an M, and then boom, busted that all out. So I'm a little suspect about this little W down in here because if I'm not mistaken, I think that was at 22.4945, 23. Yeah, so that is a lower low. But I think on balance, there was a pretty powerful message here that, you know, if anything, if you've never used RSI before, RSI doesn't like to go into oversold. So if anything, off of the 4 hours, when you see the RSI getting oversold like this, if you're just going to use the default setting, that's got to be a warning sign. At the same time, too, though, we are making lower highs and lower lows off the higher sort of structure. That's that, you know, daily fail that we were talking about there a moment ago. So, you know, at present, I think if anything, we could probably draw, you know, grab another one of these bad boys, throw them up here, start to come up with some upside objectives, kind of like the NASDAQ, eh? Very similar. I tell you guys, I think crypto and the NASDAQ are highly, highly correlated. So I think we're probably looking at something like that. And, you know, we're short from up here, somewhere up in there. I don't have it marked on this chart. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to come up and kiss this trend line again. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. V bottom, you know, there's a fractal. Like I said, it's not really a higher low. So in fact, we used to have a student who liked these. We like to call them dirty bottoms, right? Where, I mean, really, you could argue this is a megaphone. In fact, everybody should keep, and I like doing these videos for this simple fact, is that when I mention this stuff, it reminds me to keep my eyes peeled. But I think, can everybody see the megaphone that's trying to develop here? It might even be as big as that, you know? You see that? I think there's your trading range. What a mess, eh? And they usually say that you get, and I don't know whether we can do our count here. Usually it goes 1, maybe 2, 3, and then usually there's like, I think there needs to be another test here But really, the trade sets up on this fifth one here. And really what you want to find, and really it makes sense given the levels, is you want to see just a nice little double top like that. See something like that that comes in right off of this trend line. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then usually if this thing fails, we actually had a site member used to trade this setup. You see how this, and he loves it. Now I think the guy's actually a millionaire right now. He's done very, very well. But do you see how if we go back down to that, that sets up like a 4.8 risk reward ratio? You see that? So I think if anything, that's sort of what we have to expect going forward here if you're trading off of the lower time frames. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anybody, does that help anybody? I hope so. So I think that's what I'm sort of thinking is going to develop here over the next little while. I think we're going to be in one of these megaphones. And as we had said when we looked at you know, our momentum using tools like things like Brian's MACD, I love the MACD histogram. It's just my personal preference. You know, I told the everybody why, you know, we were working with RSI this term, working on Julian's 6 market matrix. I think if anything, it's a good exercise that I took this time through this term to work with the RSI and try and, you know, explain how I look at it a bit for you guys. Haven't done a heck of a lot of this 6 market matrix, guys. Frankly, I'm overwhelmed with work, and I am, you know, a general site message to people. I do hear that a few people are feeling like they're going underserved right at the moment. I totally appreciate that. Please, if you are registered for the fall program, please understand that my priority's got to be for the current student body. I know that's very frustrating for you, and you're like, but hey, my needs are just as important as their needs. I can only, you know, stretch my time so far, and unfortunately, current students really demand a higher priority. I apologize. I know there's one gentleman in particular that I'm speaking to, and I feel like I've let him down. But just hang in there, okay, guys? And keep bugging me. And if I can find time in my schedule, I will try and you know, throw some extra time out for you know, the private tutorials. Okay, another thought that sort of came into my mind about maybe we're at a bit of extreme. I thought it was interesting just off of this Kraken chart. And I was sort of saying in the lounge, I wouldn't be surprised if we went through a bunch of different sites that we actually see that Mountain Man level was hit here on Ethereum. And I mean, I've seen it's just time and time again. It's just it usually when we hit these 61.8s, and I don't even know if this is even an appropriate level to use. You know, all of these exchanges probably have little different tails here. If the Mountain Man was a little bit higher because a different exchange maybe had their load there, right, and basically that slammed into Mountain there. I don't know. You know, go exchange by exchange. I just happen to have this chart on because one of our site members is trading on Kraken. Actually, there's a few of you that are really interested in this Kraken. And we've just been watching the Euro Ethereum trade and the US dollar Ethereum trade, just sort of kind of, you know, anecdotally for him there. And really, I guess what I'm thinking is more of, really, did the market get a little too far extended over the short term? This was a nasty, nasty drop. And if anything, I think there's a period of cleanup that needs to occur. You know, actually, I think, which chart? Yeah, well, I think it was this chart. If we look at it, yeah, if we look at it from this perspective, you can see that, you know, after it goes through these big dumps, right? Obviously, the public, you know, panicking. This is probably a kill zone. They're probably walking into a liquidity trap, blah, 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 blah. They're dumping into the smart money's hands. What a shock. Shortly thereafter, the asset rallies back. So these guys who actually facilitated the bottom here, buying up the panic coins, they got paid here. But the trend just continues. Well, I think same sort of thing. Right, we came into liquidity windows, kill zones, whatever you want to call them. Public was panicking, dumping aggressively. Somebody's got to buy those coins. Usually it's quote unquote smart money, whales, institutions, whatever. You can see the back and forth that happened through here. You can see the back and forth that's trying to go on here. My hunch is, markets love to trade back to the POC. If I just keep in mind, this is a floating profile, so it's going to change as I sort of scroll in and out. Here's value. I got a funny feeling I wouldn't be surprised if we, there's 45-degree angle. We probably could do some back and forth into here. Long and short of it here is we're well off those lows. And, if you can think institutional fingerprints, we could make the argument there is their IFP. So they're still in the process of bottoming this. Here was the IFP. Well, I guess that bar and that bar. That was the IFP of that move. So they got it out of there so that they could liquidate some of that to sort of finance their operations. I wouldn't be surprised if we got, in fact, we could even maybe just do a fib on here. What do you think the odds are that if we do a fib off of this range, that this is like 38.2? They're pretty high. I don't know, maybe not off the whole range. Let's see. What's the best one to use? I think that one there. There we go. Interesting. So, that's a little bit too high. There we go. Okay, so we didn't even come anywhere near 38.2 there. Maybe it's 38.2 off of that range. Oh, even that. I think, just based on Ray Burchett, I think we can still look for this thing to work its way up into this area. You see this little notch on the profile here? And this is cool, right? 38.2, 50% of this range. And do you see how there's a bunch of guys that are going to be short from in here, and price is going to rally up into them, and these guys are going to go, excuse me, what the hell are you doing? Does that make sense? Does anybody pick up on that? Right? It's incredible how this stuff sort of lines up. You could do a horizontal support and resistance off of that level. Look at that. That's right into that level. 38.2, 50%. Volume profile level, right into that notch, right? And, the guys that facilitated the bottom in here, at least they can let some of this go at a small profit just to clean up their balance sheet. Right? Anyway, I can see the case for a little uppy. At the same time, too, you notice there's a cheeky little tail here. All you, day traders, lower time frame traders. Oh, look at that tail. You see how that tail right there is just screaming for attention, right? So I could very easily see, if you want to trade this thing, and I don't know, higher time frames aren't very bullish, so I don't know whether it's a good idea to be hunting longs here. But look at that. I mean, it's incredible how this stuff lines up. It just makes you sick to your stomach. What did we say? We thought maybe the market could work its way up to 38.2 there. So if we do that and go like that, that would confirm this double bottom. And then what does this level represent? Where's Kevin? Kevin loves this setup. There's something that people get interested right here. Sharknado. So Sharknado, that's what we'll call it now. Isn't that cool? So you can see if they slammed it down into here, they're going to slam it into this tail. They're going to bring it back against value low. They got this tail, and they got this little cheeky tail down here to defend them. And, of course, you're going to have the sharks. Where's our little icon? Ah, crap. I can never find these damn icons. Anyway, I was going to do the knife and fork little cutlery image. Anyway, they're going to go dine right here. So, what do you think, guys? Anybody who's interested in trading, what do you think? Is that a level for us to pay attention to? 182 right there? I think so. If you're trading euro, US dollar, and you can literally do this on whatever asset you're interested in. Okay, that brings us to the last one, and this is actually the one that I think is most interesting right now. I'm not really overly excited about Ethereum. I think they've diluted the crap out of that thing. There's going to be a ton of coins hitting the market over the next 6 months. I don't really, I do, as Michael said yesterday, I do think there's a case we can make to look for some sort of, counter trend rally, especially, hunt RLZs. For all you GAN people, watch those GAN angles closely into that October sort of mini orgy that they like to have, big love fest. But the coin actually that I think is catching the most attention and has got sort of the market's attention right now, I think, is Litecoin. You know, guys have heard me for a while now talking about how, you know, Charlie Lee is back, and I think that's his name, Charlie Lee, right? I think I got his name. If I didn't get his name right, I apologize. But it just reminded me so much of Steve Jobs, and him leaving Apple, and then Apple just cratering, and then it coming back to life and resurrecting itself, and Steve Jobs coming back to Apple to lead it to new highs. Just, it surprised me how the similarity of the stories. So, and I thought it was interesting. I see this happen a lot over my career. You know, you may, you know, we look at a lot of charts, eh? What do you think, guys? Do we look at a few charts around here? Just a couple, eh? And I see this repeated behavior, and you know, you're probably going to see it happen a lot too. One setup will tell you to act, and the market itself will actually, and here's a good example, right? You see where the W was put in, but the market said, you know what, maybe we're not ready. And so they put in an M right off of basically the same level. And then they put in a cute little W off of basically the same level. What do you think, guys? Is this a kind of an important level for Litecoin? And really, that's what ends up happening in trading. I don't know why, but do you see really what's going on here is this is just simply a battle off of a level. Whoever just joined us, could you maybe throw yourself on mute, please? Anyway, Benjamin, you're usually good at that. Maybe you can help that person out. Was that any? Is any? Anyway, keep moving on. So do you guys see how bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, right? Do you see how powerful this level is here? I mean, this is the way markets work. And actually, there was a guy who tried to help me years ago. And I was sitting there going, God, I want to get long this market. I want to get long this market. What do I do? What do I do? And he's going, levels, hunt the levels. You see how this is a level on Litecoin? Does that make sense? I don't know. Jeremy, you're the only one that's sort of on page with me. I think that there's a level coming in here on Litecoin. Notice, you know, we were long and then we were trailing our stops, and the market structure coiled off of this level and lost it. And so I said, all right, let's get the hell out of there. And actually, this is a good way when you trade levels. Quite often, the level will be broken, and then there'll be a little snapback to actually give you the opportunity to hop off. I see that happen time and time again. In fact, that's what happened on that Bella the other day. Broke that 7,700. In essence, the market told you, okay, you better get out of here. And it just quickly snapped back, and I was actually able to hop off that trade. It basically, I think we actually even made a little bit of money on that, crazily. And then it just cratered after that. So I think that there was a level here on Litecoin. And then, you know, watching price action, gee whiz, if we do an AB equals CD off of this move, and think that markets never move in just a straight line. Usually they need to move in this sort of harmonic pattern. And if you think about the way capitalism works, it makes sense. You can only stretch this rubber band so far before everybody is long. Who else is going to buy up here? There's got to be other buyers, right? And now all of you who understand volume impetus, you know exactly what to look for. Can everybody see how there's big volume bars here? And then actually, I think the bullish volume bar started to trail off here. I don't know whether you can see that or not on this chart. So the point here is the market started to break and came back down. And they spent some time consolidating here. And look at this cheeky little W that came in right through here. Does everybody see that cheeky little W? Hey, cheeky little W. It's not really the prettiest. In fact, you could even argue it even looks like a bit of a head and shoulders. Like boom, 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 Well, something like that. Can you see that? I don't know. Maybe I need to shade it. There. Oh, now you can see it. So I get the funny feeling that this is a pretty important level for Litecoin. I like to have 3 nice lows to work with. If I'm going to go long off of this bot setup, because keep in mind this is trend continuation, so it's not really the best trade location, right? Brian loves his reload zones, that kind of stuff. So if I am going to trade a setup off of this funny location, I really want to see some serious anecdotal evidence of structure supporting my trade. So even now, there's the bot long entry level. There's where we exited. So it's almost basically the same level. And now I've got, the head and shoulders itself to defend me. Right? That. So 1 low, 2 lows. And I got this little double bottom here to defend me. So I was posting in the lounge, if the market goes screaming up to the 50% level, well, then the bot's off, because then if we did come back down to scratch, you got to hop at scratch, right? So if we just sort of peter out here and then start to consolidate and come back, I'm going to take whatever the next bullish setup is here. Just everybody be forewarned, it's coming. If, however, we just don't get any kind of bullish setup, nothing develops here, and we careen and we break through this head and shoulders here, then that idea will be off the table. But I'm kind of thinking I'm going to be laser beam focused on this trend line here, and I'm just going to simply watch if I can get any kind of bullish structural signal anywhere along here. And I think one of our site members pointed out that on one of these exchanges, there's a cheeky little gap, like right down somewhere right in this area here. So I got a funny feeling that, they're going to bump it up here a bit, play around. If this thing's going to go, it's going to go, right? And I've missed the trade, big BFD. But if we can, come back and maybe, do something like this, man, I am going to be so all over this thing. Okay? So if anything, you wanted an idea to chew on, I think if I was going to be risking some money in the market, I'm very interested in Mr. Litecoin here. Okay. Now, what time is it here? We got about 10 minutes left. I have class here I actually have to get ready for, so can't really fudge this too much. I've been doing a ton of buying, lots and lots of buying in the little altcoin account. I do appreciate that, yes, Brian's fallen behind on his blog post. It's funny how literally I get caught up. Okay, all right, I have like 1 or 2 days of, okay, all right, I got my head above water. And then all of a sudden, so it's an absolute priority that I blog out this daily brief, and maybe we'll do a broiler chicken show tonight because the Coinigy guys bailed on us. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. I got a funny feeling that Coinigy's probably had enough of my ramblings. But if anything, that's a benefit for you guys. Maybe we'll just do a broiler chicken show tonight in-house for all of you guys. And somebody did ask if the cowboy guy could come back, so we'll see if we can rustle up Dav. I don't know whether Alex really feels comfortable coming in if we're going to do sort of in-house videos, but if he's around, we'll see if he's in the mood. So first and foremost, absolutely acknowledge I'm way behind on blog posts again. If you have, I do post if I see any trades go through. I do absolutely make it a commitment to post the chart as I see it in the lounge. So you can always scroll through and find whatever chart it is, the fill. At least I'm going to just have a visual that goes along with the notation on the crypto page. And Stuart is working diligently. We saw him here just a few minutes ago. I noticed that we were actually falling off the tracks here a little bit on the site in that we weren't really reporting our quote-unquote trading activity very much. And that's what this doubles portfolio is supposed to be. I only hunt setups that are 2-to-1 risk reward, so everything is that sort of doubles theme. And now at least we have a nice repository so you can go back and review our actual trading. I think it's important that you guys understand that there's a million different ways to skin this cat, right? Everybody's fully acknowledges that not only are there different types of setups, but there are also different ways you can manage risk. Does everybody understand that simple principle? Anyone understand that? I sure hope so. So this, we'll work on the metrics of reporting and all that kind of crap going forward. As we've said, some of these setups that we trade, there's the Litecoin setup that we just did. There's PIVX, there's Omni. There's the Apple option trade, Bella, Decred, ETC, OKCoin forwards, right? These are trade setups. So I really wanted you guys to have a repository specifically for this. I'm going to work on building out the description here for you guys. But I think this was a missing ingredient on our site. The crypto portfolio is really more just all about little old lady, right? And we want to own every bloody crypto asset out there. Really, remember, the crypto portfolio itself actually doesn't ever look to get out of names. We just want to keep buying and keep selling halves on doubles. And then as it comes back down into reload zones, just keep accumulating. So as a result, like I said, there are all the damn buy orders I got to write up. And I noticed some of these trades have come back really smartly already. If anything, this was the classic, baby, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we got some really juicy fills here. Some, maybe they're going to take some time to work. But long and short of it here is, if you want to see the little old lady in action and what the stink bids are, and not risking more than even in these cases, even fractions of percents of our portfolio, great, you've got this resource. Now if you want to see what we're trading and any trade setups that we're trading in the marketplace, that's what the doubles portfolio is all about. So I really needed to make reference to that here today, guys. Okay. And of course, if I take this Litecoin setup, right, obviously that's exactly where this is going to go. Okay. Bobo seems to like that idea. Is that agreeable for you guys to at least now you kind of know where I'm thinking? And as we had said before, Stuart is working really diligently to get the notification system going, auto email sent out, and you can opt in whether you want little old lady notifications that she's in there buying or selling. If you want trade setups, buy or sell notification, that's coming down the pike. Okay, so I did really want to make reference to that. Okay, what time is it? 10 o'clock? Why don't we spend, because we have class at 11. If anything, guys, did you notice, does anybody notice something here on the dashboard? Is this kind of number jumping out at anybody? I was hoping I could just do that one line. There we go. Does anything kind of jump out here? Do you see this? Do you notice? What did I tell you guys about? If you ever see these things go to these insane extremes, we should start paying attention. So even you crypto aficionados, we're just covering the polo coins. All right, as soon as we get Trex, oh my God, it's gonna go crazy. But you can see the washout happening in the altcoin space as we speak. This is awesome. It's basically what we wanted to see. Because now we set the base for the next bull. All right. Okay, sorry, got off on a bit of a tangent there. Good old Brian, crazy nut. Okay, let's take a look at a few of your names that you asked me to look at. Is LLO portfolio down 93%? Sure hope not. I did notice, keep in mind, this WordPress site sometimes gives us some really, really funny data points if the BTC feed comes in. Oh, no, there we are. So we're running at about 2,700% since inception. And if you include the Bitcoin return, then the numbers are just idiotic. It's just nuts. You guys got to understand, this is not normal. Please understand that. Bobo, right? Bobo understands what normal rates of return are. The long and short of it here is we wanted to be long crypto because they're building out this space. That's why we're seeing these kind of ridiculous returns. But no, technically, I don't think we're down money right now. Hopefully that answers your question. What do you think, Rohan? Based on how I've been talking today, do you feel like I'm like, oh shit? I think there's, excuse my French, sorry. Do you think, am I saying, oh my God, this market could collapse here, or am I feeling maybe like, hey, you know what, things are cleaning up? What's anybody help him? What's been the general tone out of me today, just so I know what I sound like? Am I talking constructively? Or am I talking cussing still? Am I still cussing a lot? Jeez. Brian's opening the checkbook. Ah, very good. Ah, I like that, Bobo. Jeez, you were. Oh my God, this Bobo guy. He's gonna be like total captain of this trading world soon. He has all the sayings down. He knows his crap. I think if anything, he's a perfect example where all he just needed was just a little bit of help. He just needed a little bit of fine tuning, and oh my God, I would subscribe to his newsletter when it comes out. Okay, went off on another tangent. Brian, when are we gonna get to the damn fireworks factory? Okay, poor old Steve. Oh, Steven, hang in there, buddy. I think there are better days ahead. We are looking more constructive here, so hang in there, Slick. MCO, that's an interesting name. I don't think I've ever looked at that one before. Let's see what we got there. MCO, is this a stock or a crypto? Oh, there we go. Okay, well, hourly, oh boy. So you guys need to understand that when they come right out of the gate like this, sorry, China Tim. When they come right out of the gate like this, I actually think it's in your best interest to just let these breathe a little bit. Let them show you where the bottom is. There's just not enough data. And I'll tell you guys, every time we go down on a chart like this and we look at lower time frames and we're like, oh, let's take a little nibble against those lows. Let's see if it holds. Boom, it breaks to new lows. Monaco debit card. Okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Benjamin? If anything, to me, that almost sounds like a trap. Why would they put the word Monaco on that, right? They're trying to elicit certain mental images in people. Oh, you mean if I buy this, I'm gonna be hanging out with the Monaco people? You know what I mean? If anything, when I see that, that smacks of yeah, I get a free yacht if I buy this. Excellent, Ron. Right? If anything, that actually is a little bit suspect now that you said that. I think on balance, guys, you got to let these things breathe. Really do. Just it happens. I can't tell you how often. At some point, maybe Brian should start journaling. You know what? You tell people to look for W's, Brian. Why don't you do it yourself? Very simply put, looking at this thing, I think you just got to cool your jets here. Let it breathe, let it develop over time, and then we can start applying TA to it. I suppose you could go through all your FA. The problem here, and I'm seeing this a lot, is I'm now actually hearing, and there was one that we bought the other day in MR, I think it was. Sort of same sort of thing, right out of the gate. They just cratered it. But I actually heard like here, I think it was. It turns out they're not using the term pre-mine anymore. They're using pre-ICO financing. What? So obviously the word pre-mine has become an absolute bugaboo. Do not ever use that word. But does that mean that kind of behavior is just going to simply vanish? I don't think so. So if anything, great lesson in capitalism, guys. All right. And again, same sort of thing. Do we really have any W's to work with here yet? I don't think so. I did go and nibble off of the lows here, but frankly speaking, if this thing had to take another couple months here to actually show us a W, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. All right, so hopefully who's that? Jeremy asked for that. RLZ of UBQ. Well, I've been waiting. I got my bids on the RLZ on UBQ, so if it's hit it, I should get a fill here. Ooh, look at that. Face ripperoonie. And I wonder how our Waves buddies are doing, because I bet you that Waves chart looks almost the same. All right, so, you know, again, is this, when we get down into this area, is this the time for us to be thinking really bearishly? Is this the time where we got to be like going out to the public and saying, you fools, you're buying the top? No. What do you think the public is thinking? Do you think the public is thinking, oh my God, you know, actually, this is starting to look really interesting? Well, that's what we need to be thinking, Adam. But what do you think the public's thinking right now? This thing's a piece of crap. Story's over. See you later. Man, wow, I'd never buy another one of these shit coins again, right? Yeah, well, and so Roham says, is there still opportunity? Well, you know, what will this look like for us to really know that it has quote unquote bottomed, right? Probably going to look something like this. It's, you know, usually when these things have quote unquote bottomed, they put in this kind of structure, right? So if anything, we have the very beginnings of the bottom. What level should we be using? Yeah, I know, isn't it? It's ridiculous, this stupid mountain man guy, right? It just makes you sick to your stomach. I used to watch him on a daily basis in the crude oil markets. Just, you know, and really, if anything, he might have taken a little too much heat here. But actually, the mountain man trade, I think, set up off of that candle. Can you see how it just literally came down, doink, hit that thing, and bounced away? And then this candle here opened up here, and I think it went as high as up there. So the mountain man trade was actually probably there. I don't know whether you can see that or not. If we go down, anyway, so the point here is, at least we're now into, all right, you know, this is starting to look constructive. If anything, you've heard Brian talk about wicks and tails. And if you ever see these tails that are actually inside previous bodies, they almost become like magnets. Remember that Litecoin trade we were looking at? Same sort of thing. Where the hell was that? Yeah. You see this tail right in here? It's actually contained within this body. And these tails contained within this body here, right? I love those as trade locations. Maybe not this one, but I really like, you know, especially like this one. I thought maybe it was off the higher time frame we saw that. Yeah, here. Whoops. And if I'm taking too much time talking today, guys, sorry, I'm just having fun. Tails, right? Love that. Love that. You know, all these need to be eaten. I think this one right here is probably the target there. Right, that tail right in there against these bodies. There was a market, was it gold or something we were looking at that had a really cool little tail set up there? Maybe it was the NASDAQ. I can't find it. No one. Forget about it. Next. Maybe it was ETH. Oh, yeah, it was ETH. Remember that? Here's a perfect example, right? I love when you got these tails like this that slam right in against this body. They can bring the market down into this tail, but they're not really doing any structural damage. Watch what happens when I change this to a line chart. You notice that tail just disappeared, and there's actually the bottom. Yeah, and remember, the institutions, they don't look at candles; they look at line charts. So do you see how that tail just disappeared if we convert it to yeah. So the irony of it all is, to the institutions, this is the only thing that really matters right there. Right, and it's a V too, right? V bottom, which means that it should be tested at some point, right? So we could come back down here, and it looks to me like, yeah, can everybody see? It sure looks to me like we're actually accepting above value here, right? And our thesis earlier about 38.2s, it kind of looks like that's playing out, isn't it? That stupid Litecoin's probably taking off here now. Oh, actually, it's paused. That's good. Interesting. People are back in love with Ethereum here. And did you notice the other day? Man, people were getting pretty darn negative on this, weren't they? Where's Nico? I wonder if Nico took some profits down here. Probably not. I don't know. Okay, that's about 10 minutes past the hour. Why don't we do one more and then we'll send you on your way. Strategy session. That's right. So, Stephen, if you're watching this daily brief, maybe come in and why don't you be our special guest for our broiler chicken show tonight, and we'll use you as sort of a case study. So see if you can be on the site around 6, 7 o'clock tonight Pacific time. Straits. What's the symbol for this straits? Does somebody know just off the top of their head? ST. What is it again? STRATIS. STRAT. Let's see what we got here. Well, do you think we're going to see some reoccurring themes here, guys? What do you think? Isn't it incredible how cliche this is? It's shocking how cliche this is. So, who do you think was selling here? You think the institutions were selling here? Can you literally see the panic dump, right? This is the panic dump. There is the public panicking. And the sad part about it is it's probably some insider in the story itself. Right? That, you know, developer, and he sees this top and he's like, "Oh God, all the hard work over the past 5 years, oh, to hell with it. Dump it all." It's almost cliche. And then, of course, the people that bought it off of him, are they the public, or are they the quote unquote smart money, well, market makers? Chicken broiler little. Okay. All right, yeah, they're the smart money. All right. If anything, you could argue. And now, what do you think the odds are that this just so happens to be TRI people? I like your thinking, Jeremy. What do you think the odds are that this just so happens to be in a reload zone? I mean, it almost gets cliche after a while, guys. And really, this is the power of our site, is we just do the same thing day in, day out, rinse and repeat. Let's get maybe somebody who hasn't talked. China. Do you see China? That's China Tom or China Tim or something, right? Are you still here? Anyway, do you see how this is there? Oh, there's Chris Dallas, right? Yeah, do you see how this is? It's just the same poop, different pile. See, I tried to clean up my language there for you, Casey. And actually, this is also a really good example of what we talked about tails. Do you see how there's this cheeky tail that was just wide open here? Everybody see that? Right through there. And yet, if we actually convert this to a line chart, watch. Tail disappears. Isn't that interesting? So if anything, that sort of gave you a little, hey, here's a window right in there. Look at that. That's ridiculous. Isn't that incredible? Yeah. I mean, is that a shark setup? I don't know. Kevin, what do you think? Does that pass our shark setup? I don't know if there's any market structure here. The market structure is all the way down there. Not quite shark setup, but nonetheless, that's one hell of a level, eh? Damn. Guys, seriously, learn it, live it, love it. This is the poop. You want to make $1 million out there? This is it. What do you guys think? Do you see this? Is anybody like, damn, you know, this video right here is worth a $30 monthly subscription to this silly site. It is that, right, Chris? It literally is. It's ridiculous. And you know, we've made some people extremely wealthy here, just basically espousing this kind of stuff. So anybody who's asking about this, this is exactly like Ubiq, really no difference. And actually, you know what's really interesting is there is a coin. Yeah, totally. There is a coin that I think is actually sort of front running this whole space. And if you want to kind of get an image of what this is going to look for, like, what coin do you think it is that I think is actually running about a month or two ahead of everybody else? Any ideas? There's a coin that I believe is front running this whole space. And it's on a schedule that's about a month or two ahead of everybody else. No, no, no. And it's funny how everybody's forgotten about this thing. No, no. I'll give you a hint. I really would have loved to have hung out in her penthouse. And I heard that she left. Didn't that suck? She left. Boo. She's not even on the story anymore. But do you see the similarities here, guys? You see how literally Dash did the same thing about, geez, I guess about 4 or 5 months ago. Hey, Brian, there you are. There's in the YouTube channel and on the site. Friend of mine wrote this. Enjoy. Uh-oh. Oh boy, here comes Nico. But do you see how Dash basically did all of this a while ago? And I would actually argue, you want to know what your coin's going to look like? It's probably going to look like this over the next 4 or 5 months. Does that make sense? Do you see the similarities? Does anybody see this? All right, I think probably that's probably a good ending note for our daily brief. We went about an hour and about an hour and 15 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Really want to try and give you guys like really good value for your time and money spent here. I appreciate everybody watching this video. We really appreciate your business. Really do. I really want this to be a win-win back and forth for everybody. We all sort of help each other out kind of idea. I really love that idea. And I want you to feel like, wow, man, do I ever get great value for the investment I've made in TRI. So you guys have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. I think we're going to try and do a broiler chicken show tonight because the Coinage guys kind of bailed again. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. So it'd probably be informal, right? Later on this evening. You know, I like to try and maybe do something 6, 7 o'clock Pacific time. I don't know where you are, Keith. If that's the middle of the night for you, I'm sorry. But if anything, yeah. And Da Vinci said that he was up for something. We'll see if Alex can pop in too. So. Okay, guys, why don't we leave it at that? You guys have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. All the best, and bye for now.